Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Dynasty Wonderland podcast with me, the Mad Chatter Ryan MK, and of course, my buddy, the salary captain, the March Heron, the man himself, Mr. Aaron Stewart. How's it going, buddy?
Oh man, living the dream, doing good. Officially kicking off week 11. Wow, the season's flown by.
I know.
I'm doing good, man. How are you doing?
Not bad. I'm here, ready to chat some football. I had a little bit of a rough day, but I'm ready to go, man. I'm ready to knock this out. We should have there's some good games this weekend, so I'm excited to chat about that. But we begin with the first game of the week 11. That's right. The New England Patriots at the Atlanta Falcons. And it was hard to get hyped for this one because it feels like the Patriots are playing good ball. And even though a couple weeks ago I had some hope, maybe Atlanta would get themselves in the mix, they play well without Ridley and all that, but they just no. And you could tell they missed them some Cordero Patterson tonight, I do believe.
Very much so.
But what's your thoughts on the game? I know there's not a lot to cover. I got a couple things floating around in the brain, but what are your thoughts?
Well, the first thing I'll start with, there's only one thing I'm going to mention with Atlanta. Last week on Off With Their Heads, I said the Atlanta Falcons offense off with their heads. And look what they did. Put up a big old goose egg performance. I mean, when Quadre Ollison's out there leading your team with carries, 9 carries, 34 yards. It's disgusting because outside Kyle Pitts, and he didn't do anything. No one else is exciting there. No one else is. And on the Patriots side, they're playing so great. I believe that's their 5th straight win. They have an identity, and that was something that was missing last season during their struggles. Mm-hmm. But obviously, they've got a two-headed monster in the backfield there. Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson. It's when one guy comes out, the next guy comes in, and they both broke some big plays there. And on the passing offense, this has kind of been what we've seen all season with the Patriots. No one stood out, and it's not that they're bad players. It's just with New England, it's going to be a low passing offense because they run so well. And when they do pass, they're going to spread it around.
Yeah.
No one had more than 42 receiving yards, but also that's kind of just this game. They just didn't need to pass. Thanks to Ramondre, thanks to Damian. Geez. So 7-4 Patriots with a chance, I believe. Yeah, they have a chance. They could take the division lead at the end of week 11. Depends on what the Bills do. So I know some people are writing off the Patriots, but some things just never die, it seems.
No, I'm actually looking forward to the Patriot Bills games that will be coming up because obviously those are going to be important for the division race. So that those could be really fun to watch. And with the Patriots, it seems like they're going both guys. And I know, our guy, the Podfather's been pounding the table for Damian Harris, but they like them some Ramondre Stevenson. Ramondre. I think I'm saying that right. But the Patriots seem to like the Rook, and they're using him. I mean, he had 12 attempts to Damian Harris's 10. But you still got to love Damian Harris. He's still working it. Obviously, no touchdowns tonight for either of them. Just really kind of a fantasy wasteland, this game, really, when it comes down to it. So I guess there's not a whole lot to say. But that's kind of what I wanted to talk about is, there was a big debate on Stevenson or Harris. And I would have been in the Harris corner, but I can definitely see them using both. So
I have learned on Twitter this week that there is a cult following of Ramondre Stevenson fans, a cult following of it. You don't want to poke the beast on that one, but I certainly do have to give Ramondre credit. Like there are plays that he has where it's like, oh my goodness, this guy is just he's a monster. It's tough to bring him down. I guess the thing that and he's a rookie. He's a rookie. He can improve on this. It's more the consistency. It's like, okay, that's awesome to bring that for one play. Can you bring that every play? Because if you're only going to bring it every so often, this is what he's going to be, where at best it's okay. It's a 50-50 split with Damian Harris. And I don't think it has anything necessarily to do with Harris being bad or Stevenson being good. It's just just seems to be part of the scheme. The scheme is, hey, we're going to wear you down, and we're going to bring a guy out, kind of give him a breather for a series, and we're bringing in a guy that's also going to wear you down. It's an interesting approach, but the Patriots have always shown, hey, whenever the league zigs, they zag. Like everyone's going to be in, I don't know, I formation. A decade ago, they went wide, and when everyone else went to 3-4 wide receiver sets, the Patriots are like, we'll go back to dual tight ends, we'll run the ball. It's interesting. It's interesting on that. And it's smart. You got to do something different to stand out. And the results, 7-4 this season, that's working.
Well, they got two backs they like. I mean, so but yeah, and then I would also say it is interesting because I think a lot of people on the other side with the running backs were thinking maybe Wayne Gallman. Then there was a report that came out that maybe look for Mike Davis to get work, and here we are. It was actually Kadri Olison. So it's just crazy how things work out sometimes, because I wouldn't have expected Olison to be the main guy here, but hey. So yes. Olison. Hopefully Patterson's back, but it does sound like he could be out another week, but we'll see. So we do have some QB news. Obviously, this is part of week 11, but I think get into it before. Obviously, the big one is Super Cam is likely to start this Sunday. So I know I did hear and see a few things about why not just keep using PJ Walker and have Cam Newton, do his part. And I'm like, let's see Cam full time. I'm ready for it. Right. I think it could be beneficial all around fantasy wise for that offense. So let's see, because I think some people are down on Cam because of his time in New England, but people got to remember that Patriots roster was kind of strict. Like Bill Belichick came out last season and was like, hey, what did you expect? We went all in for like so many years to try and win the Super Bowl. Right. And then obviously this year he went and poured a bunch of money into the offense. And it always felt like, even though Bill loved him some Cam Newton, respects to Cam Newton, it just felt like it was almost square peg round hole situation, where it just didn't quite mesh. And yeah, there were some good moments there, but I feel like this might work out a little bit better in Carolina. And I'm just excited to see it. I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, and definitely to add even more interest to it, the Panthers are in Carolina hosting Washington, which that's Ron Rivera. Yeah, Riverboat Ron. Sometimes I'm pretty certain I said this last week too. The reason, if you're an NFL fan, that you never need to watch any drama shows ever is the NFL. It's just perfect. It is reality TV. You can't write this stuff. You can't script it. It's perfect.
Yes.
And, you talk about PJ Walker. Look, it was a great story with him. He washed out of the league, went to the XFL, lit it up a little bit. It's cool, awesome, made it back to the NFL. And you know what? If he remains a backup quarterback for the rest of his career, honestly, that's not bad. He could say he had a career in the NFL, but every time we've seen him come in and play, has there been a single performance over the past year and a half when PJ Walker's got extended playing time that we're like, ooh, this guy's interesting. This guy could maybe be a starter. I've never gotten that from him. It's always been some really bad performances. And quite frankly, if PJ Walker showed any signs of being a starting quarterback, Cam Newton wouldn't be here in
Right.
Carolina. So yeah, I'm not buying like PJ Walker starting this week. It was last week. I mean, they were already getting him on the Cam Newton on the field.
Mm.
Like, yeah, Newton's going to start. It's going to be a great story. I love
I,
it.
I do think PJ played well last week, and I do think he's someone that could be a solid backup. He came in last week, played all right. They got the win. Cool. Um, but yeah, not someone you want to depend upon long term. So we're going to see Cam,
Yeah.
and I'm excited. And then I guess I don't know if I can say I'm excited, but Joe Flacco is starting for the Jets. Don't need to spend a
Mhm.
ton of time on this, but it is interesting because everybody was so excited about I I just that to me was just insane. The way people hopped on that train so quickly was crazy. And here we are. And Zach Wilson not going to be ready to go. So in comes Mr. Flacco, who came in at the end of last week's game, went 3 for 3, I believe, with a touchdown. So this might be okay fantasy wise for the offense. Now, if I remember correctly, who do they play? Oh, yeah, they play the Dolphins. So they might actually, in New York, they might actually be able to make a little noise with Mr. Flacco at the helm. So I'm kind of interested to see how this goes. But it probably doesn't matter because next week, Zach Wilson will probably be back. But yeah, so Flacco back in starting position. Now, real quick before I see what you have to say, we do got to you got to give Flacco some props, man. He's
Mhm.
played some hella good games in playoff runs for the Ravens. Like I've watched it. Like, dude's had some games where it's just like, man, he's a killer. So I gotta give Joe Flacco his respect. And I also gotta say he'll probably be better than Mike White. So but that's what I
Yeah. And really with this, like the only reason I go "Ugh," is because that Jets trade for Flacco just didn't make sense for anybody. Because I can get on board with what you're talking about with Flacco, if I can get that out, is that Flacco is a veteran quarterback that's proven that he can make throws and be the backup QB that comes in 3 or 4 games and is able to keep teams in the playoff hunt. But with the Jets, it's like it's a franchise that's just going nowhere. But you're right, the hype with Mike White. That's what people do, right? Like there's one big game, like and it's like people coming out touting him. It's like no, nobody was touting Mike White. Nobody. Oh, it was
he was touting
disgusting.
himself. I don't know if you remember, but
Oh yeah.
he was saying
Hey, he was. And you know what? Like for a backup quarterback to have confidence, like sure, awesome. Like you best have confidence. But
yeah,
oh man, like geez, what was it? A 4 touchdown game, and then followed up with a 4 interception
interception
game.
game. Yeah.
Hey, I want, and that's all I'm going to talk about with the Jets there. But hey, with Flacco, and I had the fun stat last week. He was the highest scoring fantasy quarterback from the 2008 NFL draft. It's
Right.
impressive with Flacco.
Hey, I hope he has a good game. I hope he has a good game. All right. Let's get into the rest of the week 11 games. Down the week 11 rabbit hole we go. I got the timer started. Let's begin. First of all, Broncos, Rams on a bye. So let's not forget that. You're going to be missing a few pieces there to your teams. But we begin with for the North. Green Bay at Minnesota. Not that this game is for the NFC North because Minnesota very unlikely to even make the postseason, but they still got a shot for a wild card, I guess. But this is a game that is interesting because I do think Minnesota should be able to keep up with Green Bay. They usually play Green Bay well in Minnesota. So I feel like this could be a game where we get us some fantasy points. Now, Aaron Rodgers, Alan Lazard, they're banged up. MVS, I think, hit the injury report today. But they should all be good for the weekend. So we should have two mostly healthy teams against each other. And I feel like we get some fantasy points here.
It's certainly shaping up that way because, especially as you talked about in Minnesota, it's a dome game. Because at first, when I was like, oh no, like we are approaching those cold weather games, I was like, oh, I hope it's not outdoor. It's in Minnesota. Yes. Because it does have the makings of like when you're building DFS lineups, the Vikings they're always one of those teams because it's fun to build lineups because they do the opposite of what the Patriots do. Patriots spread the ball around. The Vikings go, nah, we've got two receivers in Jefferson, Thielen. We've got Dalvin Cook that we'll throw the ball to, and maybe Tyler Conklin scores a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, we'll sprinkle him in every once in a while.
Exactly. You can always bank on that. Like it's
very consolidated.
Who was the second year? They had the second year receiver, Osborne. Osborne was there for like a little bit, but I really haven't heard much from him lately. But yeah, it has the makings of a potential shootout. But like also both teams are like sneaky good pass defenses. So it'll be interesting. The Packers, the thing that I don't think people are talking about enough is, of course, they're 8-2, and that's fantastic. Of course, one of those losses being the COVID game for Aaron Rodgers.
Mm-hmm.
But they have so many pieces that they're missing that are going to come back to their team. Jair Alexander, the left tackle, David
Bakhtiari.
Yeah, I would butcher that name. The blindside tackle. Like it's crazy that they've been this good and they have reinforcements along the way. Man, that team maybe should be the Super Bowl favorite, I think.
Mm.
But this game itself, to get back to Week 11, I'm hoping for some fantasy points in this one.
And I do know Green Bay's defense is playing pretty well, and that does put them as one of the favorites. But in Minnesota, the Vikings just always playing well, and I definitely could see this being a good day for people who roster these players on these teams. All right, we'll go ahead and move on. 30 seconds left in that one. Restart the timer. Battle in Buffalo. We got the Colts going to the Bills. I got some thoughts on this, but you go ahead and get us started on this one, Aaron.
It is the rematch of the playoffs from last season. And, of course, Frank Reich, the head coach for the Colts, he has a connection with Buffalo. He was a longtime backup quarterback there in Buffalo back in the day. And it is interesting because the Bills are a team that is going to air it out. That's typically what they're going to do. Their running backs just don't do much at all. Like there may be a Matt Breida game. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Whereas with the Colts, it is the opposite. Like, yes, the passing offense does have a really good young receiver in Michael Pittman, but they are leaning heavily on Jonathan Taylor, and I applaud them for that because Taylor's just that damn good.
Right.
So the interesting thing on this game is which team can establish their identity in this game. And it's in Buffalo. Oh, man, it's going to be such a good one because the Colts have scratched and clawed their way. They are right there in the playoff picture. And the Bills, we spoke about their division rival, the Patriots, that just won. They're 7-4. The Bills lose. All of a sudden, the Colts improved to 6-5. The Bills go down to 6-4, and both teams are right there in the wild card hunt. Like it's going to be a fun battle. And it may be if one of these teams misses the playoffs, you point back to this particular game and you go, oh yeah, they lost to Team A lost to Team B, and that's why Team A is not in the playoffs, and Team B is in the playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking forward to this playoff rematch. What are your thoughts?
I agree. I'm looking forward to it as well. I know Buffalo's defense has played pretty well, but I think we also have to look at, Buffalo, I'd say roughly half their schedule at least. They haven't, hasn't been tough teams. And, We've seen them have the dud against Jacksonville. We've seen them struggle against better teams. So I guess I want to see more out of this Buffalo offense, because it's tough to say with that running. It's like I think I've talked about before. It's like they have a bunch of secondary running backs, but no true a guy you can really rely on. And when it gets later in the year, when it gets into the playoffs, that shit makes it tough. And so it's kind of like I'm sure they'll be able to move the ball against the Colts defense. They've been playing better, but I think maybe I'm a little concerned. I'd like to pick the Colts because they've been playing well, and but I just feel like in Buffalo, this defense is going to do enough to mess up Carson Wentz where it's not going to be. I don't think it's going to be good for them. And I do think it could be interesting for a while. And I definitely am not shying away from Jonathan Taylor just because they're playing the Bills. Play your studs always. So I think Jonathan Taylor will find a way to get it done. But I feel like this is going to be one of those Carson Wentz fucks it up in the fourth quarter kind of games. Like that's how I see it going. But yeah, I think it's going to be an interesting one. I'm excited for it. And I just want to continue to see JT kick some ass. And Buffalo Bills, show me a little something more. Show me a little something more.
Exactly. And then my one closing statement there with the Bills defense, you brought it up with Carson Wentz, is that this Bills pass defense has chewed up and spat out mediocre and horrible quarterbacks. And so Carson Wentz cannot, all he has to do, his major thing is, and the Colts this entire season, they don't ask him to do much, and he doesn't need to force things because Buffalo will take advantage of that. So Carson Wentz, for the love of God, just don't be Carson Wentz.
Right.
Just take the easy passes.
I love the passion and the heart, but like there's sometimes you got to go, okay, dude, he's trying to do too much. And, hopefully he chills it out because this is a game they can't afford to lose, even though I feel like they're probably going to lose, and kind of puts them in a real hole. But hey, you never know. Buffalo, I don't think is looking indestructible either. So we'll see how it goes. But moving on. Next up, we have the man Lamar Jackson against what could be the future man, Justin Fields. Now, obviously, they're not going to be competing against each other directly on the field, but I kind of like this. I want to see the Ravens get a little bounce back here, get back in their groove. But hey, you got the Bears right there. The Ravens don't have an overwhelming defense. It does feel, again, we've talked about, like they're, Fields is getting a little more comfortable. The Bears offense is starting to cater a little more to what he can do. So we're still waiting to see enough to where we can really, kind of count on any of these receivers. Because up to this point, we haven't been really able to, it's been the running backs we can count on. So I'm interested to see if Justin Fields takes another step, if we get closer to getting some more fantasy relevancy out of the offense. But as always, you know me. It's a Lamar Jackson. I gotta love Lamar Jackson. So I'm always excited for Lamar Jackson and the Ravens. And I want to continue to see more Rashad Bateman. Give me more Rashad Bateman, Baltimore. Come on.
Absolutely. And I'm right there with you. And it's Lamar Jackson, the Ravens. That is almost always when I'm like, which game should I straight? Oh, Ravens, absolutely. 100%. Lamar Jackson's just that much fun to watch.
Yes.
But I'll also say, in the show sheet here, we have Lamar Jackson versus Justin Fields. How do you pull up Justin Fields' stats there? You know what? I get the deja vu of Lamar Jackson during his rookie season, because the stats, when you take just the passing stats, you go, oh, wow, on the season, 4 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He hasn't had a single game with multiple passing touchdowns at all. Right. And despite that, he's had back-to-back weeks where he's had top 10 fantasy quarterback weeks. Of course, you have the bye week, week 10, and that's just it's mind blowing. It's literally his last 2 games, 2 touchdowns to 2 interceptions, and you're like, man, if quarterback. Is that not Matt Ryan? Like
right.
His past 2 games where he is giving you like nothing less than 5 points in each game. But Justin Fields is, and I love that I'm seeing this. He's actually running. Like I know it seems like kind of a duh thing. Like the guy's got amazing speed, a 4.51 40-yard dash. That's 98th percentile. That's right there, right behind Lamar Jackson. And the thing is, we've seen him exceed 40 rushing yards in 3 of the past 4 games. The one time he missed it was 38. So, you can kind of give him a pass on that. And I love that we do have that Konami code quarterback, the true, like this is the closest thing we have to Lamar Jackson right now. Like Jalen Hurts, and I love Jalen Hurts, but Fields was a first-round pick. Just like Lamar Jackson, like they're gonna have the security. Like Justin Fields is gonna have the security that Lamar Jackson had, and maybe we have that with Trey Lance. We still don't. We just don't know with Trey Lance, but I love it. I do Prediction Strike. I really, really enjoy it. And one of the things I did was I purchased Justin Fields stock.
There you go.
Man, weeks ago, and the idea I was like, I am holding. I'm just bought a significant amount of stock, and I just went, you know what? If he hits as a Konami code, it's going to skyrocket. So what I'm seeing these last 4 games here, like I can live with that. And now we're starting to see top 10 upside where he hasn't been doing it with the passing. Just imagine when the passing gets there, because he's a more natural passer than Lamar Jackson, and that has me excited. I am pumped.
And I do hope anybody who still doubted Lamar Jackson and his passing after this year shuts the fuck up, because we talked about it all off season, and I pounded the table for Lamar's going to be throwing the ball this year. Now they got there in a funny way, because I just thought that's how naturally the offense would go, and Rashad Bateman taking him, that would be a big part. And then, Bateman gets injured, but all their running backs get injured, and they're not as great running the ball, except for Lamar Jackson, of course. And so, just love the Ravens. Let's get some more, like I said, Rashad Bateman. But yes, you said it perfectly. Justin Fields is like, it is the parallels with him and Lamar are great. And like you said, though, could end up being a better passer. And I don't know how you can't be excited for Fields. You just have to have patience, because now he's starting to show what we knew he would show. And, at some point he's going to get a coach that's going to really be able to, highlight what he's best at. So, but I'm going way past the timer. So we move on.
That's all right.
The Tennessee Titans. They have a guy that, it's funny. This particular dude, I think I brought him up last pod, but this particular dude used to be on the Colts, and I was a huge fan. Had him rostered all over in dynasty leagues. And then at some point you just kind of give up. But he runs a 4.4 40-yard dash, 83rd percentile. Speed score of 105, 83rd percentile. Burst score of 130.4, 89th percentile. And, there's stuff to like about this guy. And I'm talking about to one Marcus Johnson. Because when the Titans not only lose Derrick Henry, but then Julio Jones hit the IR, they need help. And, lots of places, that Westbrook Akine, or Akine, I'm not sure how you pronounce his last name.
Yeah.
But you look at that dude's profile and it doesn't really, grab you. So it was just like, and somewhere along the way in an infirmary, I completely missed Marcus Johnson, because if I would have looked more closely at the depth chart and saw his name, I would have totally brought him up in the infirmary. But He made some noise last week. And my question to you, Mr. Aaron, is do you think he makes some noise this week as the Titans take on, well, the Houston Texans?
Well, starting to talk about the Texans here. That defense can't stop anything.
Right.
It's so bad, so bad. And Marcus Johnson, I have been there right with you, where I pull up the profile. I remember what it was, maybe 3 years ago, that he was starting to get some work, and he's a deep threat guy. Like that's you look at the yards per reception. It's like it's in his career, it's always 16 yards or more. And
Right.
he's got the speed of the burst that you talked about. And man, it is hard like not to go, yes. And on the surface too, it's like with Julio out, like who else is standing up? I'm looking at the receiver snap share from last week. He played 2/3 of the snaps, and Chester Rogers, he's strictly the slot receiver there, played a third, and Nick Westbrook Akine, I think that's how it's pronounced, but my goodness, never trust me for
right.
that.
I think I might have heard it said by somebody else like that. So
I will just go with Nick Westbrook. It was like he played a third. Like Marcus Johnson doubled the amount of snaps that any non-AJ Brown receiver played.
Well, and he out-targeted everyone.
Right. And I guess the only issue on this one is I go, this offense in particular, because here's where the issue is, because I'm sure it is definitely skewed by the Derrick Henry weeks, but it's still a team that is in the bottom quarter of the league in team pass plays. Mm-hmm. So are we really interested in a guy that is, I guess, maybe the number 2 wide receiver, but it's like there's still other receivers that are going to get targets. They like to play multiple tight end sets and get them involved in the passing game a little bit, but just enough.
Swaim had 5 targets this week. He was actually second in targets.
He had 5 targets, and Pruitt he always has these, it seems, where he'll only get like 1 or 2 targets, but it's always in a freaking red zone. Yeah. So, and that's kind of where my problem is you go, pass volume's not there. And then there's these passing touchdowns always go to the weirdest guys. It's so frustrating. And it's still a team that's heavily committed to the run. And speaking of the run game, it's like, McNichols is there as a pass catcher. I know he has not been what we have hoped these last couple of weeks, because he was one of the top waiver wire guys, but Dante Foreman was a guy that was getting involved in the passing game. And the Titans it goes back to the Patriots. So, like, the problem with Patriots pass catchers is they spread it out. Right. That is exactly what the Titans do there. And yeah, you look at the game, and it's impressive. Topped 100, he got 100 yards on the dot, but before that, he had 4 catches on the season. He had 3 back in week 5, and then 1 from week 6 all the way to week 9. I'd rather pass and just go, you know what? Someone else take it. And I hate it. Poor Marcus Johnson, but he's 27, 28 years old. That's never exceeded 300 receiving yards. He is what he is.
Right. And quickly, because the timer went off, but that's what I was going to say is you really do got to look at, as much as we like him, he's been around a while now and really hasn't, been featured much. So, it's nice to see. But even if it does somehow, if he does continue as the number 2 and gets a handful of targets, when Julio comes back, that's going bye-bye anyway. So, okay, we move on to the next one. What do we got here? Who the hell are these teams? Speaking specifically of the Saints and the Eagles, just because, what do you got, Aaron? Who the hell are these teams?
Philadelphia is the team I never know who they are, because they'll have an ugly game and then the next week an impressive win. The Saints are a little bit more stable. They have obviously been hurting since Jameis Winston's left, but
right.
You know what? Trevor Siemian, to his credit on the season, 5 passing touchdowns, no interceptions.
No, he's not played bad.
Yeah.
I think no Kamara is what really hurt him last week.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I wouldn't bank on Kamara playing this. I don't know. Like maybe it wasn't a high ankle sprain, but I don't know. It just seems like I'd rather wait a week, even if he plays. I don't think they're going to give him the full Kamara workload, but the Saints, I think, still have an identity because even though they lost their quarterback and that stinks, it's not like with Winston that they were out there passing a lot. And from what we've seen from Simeon, is he as talented as Winston? No. But he's not putting up a Mike White 4 interception performance. And they don't need a quarterback to go out and throw 300 yards, 3 touchdowns. They haven't needed that all season. So Simeon going out there and throwing a touchdown or 2 and just making sure not to give the ball to the other team, it works. And Mark Ingram was very solid in handling the workload. It's like, wow, turn back the clocks a little bit because we haven't seen that in like 2 years.
Right.
Yeah. Eagles, no freaking clue. They're such a wild card. I don't even know if I could bet on this freaking game. I'm a little shocked the Eagles are the favorites, though. Actually, seeing that, I would take the Saints on the road as a 2-point underdog. I feel more confident with them than I do with the Eagles as a Vegas favorite. But what are your thoughts on these two teams? Who the hell are they?
I don't know. I honestly, I don't think I can add much to what you said because with the Saints, you're right. It does feel like they kind of have some ups and downs, but I think for the most part, they're consistent in what they're trying to do. And really, it's just been okay. It was Winston, and then he went out, and, when you're rolling with Winston, you're going to have some crazy stuff happen, crazy games. But now no Winston and Trevor Siemian, maybe a little more stable, yet not as talented. So I feel like they'll keep chugging along. But yeah, the Eagles, they're just so weird. And it stinks because I want to see more out of Jalen Hurts. I believe in him more, but, he may not do enough to convince the Eagles or anyone that he should be the guy. Because I don't think he's done it yet. So, and it's kind of weird. Like now they're just running the shit out of the ball. And it's like, I just, and I don't know. I'm with you on the Eagles. I don't even know what to say, really. I really don't, because they've kind of been a bit confounding all year, and I've said that about the Saints at times, but yes, the Eagles much more so. And but I do think this could be an interesting one. And I'm with you. I would be surprised if the Eagles find a way to pull this out.
I will say the one thing that I'm intrigued about the Eagles, I don't think it'll be this week, but the clock is starting. They've activated Miles Sanders from IR, so they have that 3-week practice window. And I'm interested because I feel like when he went on IR, the fear was Kenny Gainwell is going to come in and steal everything. Gainwell didn't do anything, and Howard he's been solid, but he is not keeping Sanders off the field on this one. So Sanders could be a late season, one of those late season running backs that helps you win because the Eagles have
run the ball
been doing
like
a really good job. Exactly. They've been running very well. And Sanders was getting volume. Like it was one of those, the results weren't there with Sanders, but like the opportunity and everything you wanted, it was there. So that's the thing to watch for. And I'm intrigued to see if he comes back this game. I don't think so because it was such a late week. I think it was today. So when people are listening to this, it was Thursday that he got activated. So maybe not this week, but next week, Miles Sanders return.
Yeah, we'll see. It could be. He's cleared to play. Yeah, we'll have to see. But his return is something to look forward to. Faux show. All right. Move on to the next one, which is a sneaky shootout. Cincinnati at Las Vegas. I think this could be a sneaky shootout, my friend, because I think Las Vegas is going to want to rebound from their game last week against the Chiefs. And let's face it, that game really turned with that whole Deshaun Jackson fumble. I think he's going to be fired up. The Raiders are going to be fired up. They're at home. And I also think the Bengals are going to be coming to play because the Bengals, that they themselves were looking great and then had a bit of a stumble. So, I think this could be a bit of a high scoring affair, and I'm all for it. If I'm playing DFS, I'm like, yeah, give me some Jamar Chase and some Brian Edwards because Brian Edwards is slowly creeping up, slowly creeping up. So keep an eye on that guy right there. But yeah, and I was looking at running backs today, and I hadn't realized how impressive really Joe Mixon has been this year. He really has been, and I'm happy to see it. I didn't have a lot of him rostered in general, and it seemed like he was hard to get because those who had him were always like, "No, it's coming." It's coming. He's really had a great year, and it's good to see. It's good to see.
Absolutely. And one of the things in this matchup that is very intriguing, as you talked about the Bengals coming out and ready to play, I think we're set up for a perfect storm on this one because Burrow, going to player profiler, his yards per pass attempt is 8.7. That's number 2 in the NFL, the entire NFL. He has done such a great job on that. And then going to the other side with the Las Vegas Raiders pass defense, their average depth at target is 8.8 yards, which is the 4th highest. The teams ahead of them are little like teams you would expect in the Detroit Lions. And then there are some there's some better defenses, the Broncos and the Saints, but it'll be interesting. Like this, what that tells me as an analyst is I go, okay, the Raiders, part of their scheme is like they are going to allow deep passes. And Joe Burrow is a guy that likes to throw deep. Mm-hmm. So that will be the matchup there. Will they be able to compete? Do they have an answer for Jamar Chase? Do they have an answer for T. Higgins? It will be an interesting battle. I may have to dig into those wide receiver quarterback matchups a little bit. Yeah. But and the Raiders passing offense I don't think I could say underrated anymore. I feel like with half a season now, we've come to go, okay, Carr has been throwing it pretty well. He has been, he himself is always underrated. But
I think they're missing routes. I really think they are. But, hopefully Deshaun can give them a little bit of that. But sorry to interrupt. Continue.
Right. Oh, no, because I think that was a good thing to add. And that was one of the things I'm pulling up here with the Raiders was to see like how much was Deshaun Jackson involved? The answer's none, but that was obviously still getting used to the team going forward. I certainly like that because, right now that's such a simple wide receiver depth chart to figure out. It's Edwards is running his routes. Hunter Renfro's running his routes in the slot. And Zay Jones was like the 1-for-1 replacement for Henry Ruggs. But the issue with Zay Jones is in that role, he's running those empty calorie routes where in the Jalen Guyton from last year, where he may be out there playing a lot of snaps, running a lot of routes, but getting 3-4 targets.
Right.
So, you brought up a great thing with Deshaun Jackson. Are we going to see more of him? Because that would be a better 1-for-1 replacement in terms of skill set, playing style to Henry Ruggs than a Zay Jones. But at the same time, I feel bad for Zay Jones. If you follow the Raiders, like that's been a player that the coaching staff loves. He's busted his tail. It's been nice to see him get an opportunity, but he also hasn't done anything with it.
Okay, we move to the next one. I'm going to let you begin this one. And yes, by the way, I'm really focused on Deshaun Jackson too, because I think they need at least some of what he can do. even if he's not, playing, the majority of the snaps, you got to get him in there to do because Henry Ruggs was really having a pretty good year till the tragedy that unfolded. So it'd be nice if Deshaun Jackson can at least give them a piece of that, because that would benefit the overall offense a lot, I think. But yeah. So next one, I go from the sneaky shootout game in Las Vegas to the obvious shootout game in Kansas City. Kansas City, the Chiefs, hosting, oh yeah, that's right, Mr. Aaron's a one Dallas Cowboys. So start us off, buddy.
Ooh, gonna be a fun game. I am pumped. My primary Dynasty League has got some Chiefs representation in a crowd in a league filled with Cowboys fans. So, there's going to be some bragging rights going on. And you're right. Like this, it's such an obvious shootout that like in DFS, it's like, I don't want to get heavily involved with it. Like I want maybe small pieces of it. And it's like, right, trying to figure out the right pieces to put in there.
Michael Gallup could be interesting.
Michael Gallup, especially that price tag. Absolutely. I'm a little worried as a Cowboys fan, not for the Cowboys themselves, because they bounced back extremely well last week with the Falcons. But the Chiefs also bounced back incredibly well themselves and started to play like the Chiefs that the rest of the NFL has kind of feared for the last 2+ seasons. Mahomes in a 5-touchdown game, and like a couple went to Tyreek, and it's like, man, that performance for my my guillotine league would have been great if it happened the week before. But of course, I get eliminated, and then I do all that. But I digress. It's which team is going to continue their momentum? I think I'm going to go Kansas City on this one, mainly like the home field advantage. And that pains me. I will be on the edge of my seat on this one because I sit there and I go, I really don't know. But the matchups we're going to have. I mean, a lot of people don't watch wide receiver cornerback matchups, but is Trayvon Diggs, who has been a ball hawk at cornerback, is he going to be matched up with Tyreek Hill? So that, because we know the ball is going to be thrown a lot there, and you got Tyreek and you got the guy that's been getting like an interception every single game. What are the Cowboys going to do with Travis Kelce? How are they going to generate pressure with Patrick Mahomes? It will be quite fun. But if I have to make a pick for money, give me the Chiefs at home. Ugh.
You won't do it? I'm going to do it. I'm going to go Dallas, even though it really doesn't matter because our picks, the whole picks thing kind of trailed off while you yourself when we're in the infirmary. But here's the way I look at it, man. The Cowboys, Dak Prescott has so many more options, in my opinion, than Patrick Mahomes. Dak Prescott is, while aggressive, not as risky as Patrick Mahomes. The Dallas running game, better than the Chiefs running game. Flip it to the defenses. Neither one of them are top defenses. The Chiefs have really struggled this year. They've played a little better as of late, but the Cowboys, they're better than they are last year, but still nothing special. But you mentioned Mr. Diggs. Yes, the difference maker. Can't think of a huge difference maker this year. Obviously, they got some guys on there. But as far as this year, difference makers on that defense, I can't think of one. But Trevon Diggs for the Cowboys. So to me, I just see you got it right. It's in KC. And that place, as you know, is loud as fuck. So, yes, I just feel like the Cowboys are going to take this one. It's going to be high scoring. studs from both sides. You're going to get your fantasy points. But I do think if we're picking, I think the Cowboys take this one. And I think the Chiefs have to keep fighting to hold on to that division. Because here's the other thing. Yeah, the Chiefs looked like the Chiefs last week. That it was against a questionable Raiders team who we do feel like has been playing well this year, but has also dealt with a bunch of shit. And at some point, all of everything, all of that has to take a toll off the field, on the field. Like I said, hurts without Henry Ruggs. Like, so I'm just looking at it as like, that was one game. We'll see.
Right.
I think the Cowboys are actually a much taller task, a much tougher test for Kansas City than Kansas City is for Dallas. But we'll see how it plays out because, if the Chiefs feel like they got their mojo back, and they do, you're right, that is scary. So, but we'll see how it goes. But so I'll pick the Cowboys for you, my friend. I got you.
I appreciate you.
All right. We're going to real quick get this timer started. We're going to chat about these beat up squads, the Cardinals, the Browns. Still got Kyler Murray banged up. Baker Mayfield's already is more banged up, is what I mean to say. And with the Cardinals, Hopkins, you've got, some guys there, obviously. They've been down Chase Edmonds. James Conner has looked good this year, but, Benjamin's really played well since stepping in, but now he's banged up. You look at back to the Cleveland side. We're still waiting to see if Nick Chubb and the rest of them boys are going to come off that COVID list for the game this weekend. So it's kind of a mess. And you got the Cardinals at the Seahawks. And I feel like this should be a game. It should be no problem for the Cardinals if they get some of their players back, because I love Russell Wilson, but their team is rough this year. And clearly, that he's still getting used to playing ball with that hand. So, and then who did the Browns play? That's right, the Lions. This is like a get right game if you've ever had one. But is Baker going to be able to keep himself pieced together to play the game or get through the fucking game? So, and the Browns, aside from running back position, just because of how they themselves spread it out, much like the Patriots, we don't count a lot on that for fantasy, other than running back. But, the Cardinals, man, we need some Kyler Murray back. So tell me what you got for the beat up squads this week.
When it comes to the Cardinals first, I just have this feeling, especially with the game being in Seattle, and this has been the story for the last 5 weeks, is underdog teams winning. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take Seattle in that one. Mm-hmm. Arizona will be fine in the long term. They're getting their guys back.
Right.
But Kyler and Hopkins not being 100%. Seattle, you're right. They're nothing special, but it's a divisional game. Weird things happen in those because divisional teams play each other twice a season. They are very prepared to play against a Kyler Murray, and he's hobbled. That makes it even better. I gave the camera a funny look. People that are listening should absolutely watch the YouTube video. And the reason why is because on the ESPN scoreboard, the Browns and Lions game is right above the Titans-Texans game, where the Titans are at home hosting the Texans. And they make the Titans a 10.5 point home favorite. And the Browns are an 11.5 point home favorite against the Lions. And I'm like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because I view the Lions as being an equal team to the Texans. But when we compare those home teams, the Titans are a hell of a lot better than the Browns. So there's no way I am taking the Browns in 11.5 points. No way. No way. Because Detroit is a trap game waiting to happen.
That's very true.
If they are pissed off after tying. I mean, they got to keep this momentum going. They didn't lose last week. They shouldn't lose this week.
I put the Lions a notch above the Texans, man. to be honest, because
Me
they
too.
played really tough, man. I just think they don't have a lot of talent. First year coach, I just think they've lost some close games. They've lost some tough ones. So,
Right.
I think Detroit. I mean, if they get some players in there, obviously a quarterback, Detroit in the next couple of years could become a player because
Certainly.
it does seem like the coaching staff is doing the right things. So,
Agreed. And it'll be watching. I know we won't be talking much about offseason, but I am intrigued with what Detroit does this offseason because that will give us a better idea of what direction they're going. I really like what they did this past offseason because building a team up from the ground up means you have to lay the foundation. And I knew this, and everyone knew it would be a bad season for the Lions, but I could see what they were doing.
mhm,
Intrigued, and yeah, that was what the weird look was for because I'm like, there's like what?
that is pretty ridiculous.
How is Cleveland a bigger favorite than Tennessee against the both teams playing equally garbage teams this season? So Seattle's going to take Arizona. It's going to happen.
I wouldn't surprise me. Wouldn't surprise me. All right, we're going to wrap this up with the Sunday night football game. Steelers at Chargers. Another guy we're still waiting to see if he's going to be able to play, get off the COVID list, and that would be Big Ben. Last week, we saw Mason Rudolph in that tie that you mentioned against the Lions, and it's too bad. It's too bad. You know who that kicker looked like? An adult version of Pedro from Napoleon Dynamite. Did you ever watch Napoleon Dynamite? I love Napoleon Dynamite. But that's what he reminded me of. And I felt so bad for him, man. Like, because it sounded like he hit the turf before he hit the ball. I saw some stuff on that, and I'm just like, man. Oh, you poor bastard. It's too bad you did that. But anyway, so we'll see what happens. Pittsburgh, they've just been kind of rough fantasy wise this year, regardless. I mean, you get, your little bit from Deontay Johnson, and hey, you got a little something from James Washington this year, which is great because I actually started him in one league. Had to start him in a league and got the TD. So thank you for that. But the Chargers are the team I'm really looking at because you got another tough game here for them. Pittsburgh's got a tough defense. You're at home. But I think we know that doesn't really matter so much, particularly in LA. And we need to see what has been going on with them. I don't know. It feels like we need more from this Chargers offense.
Right.
Justin Herbert, good quarterback. You got Keenan Allen. I know Mike Williams is whatever, but you've got Austin Eckler. You've got there's plenty of weapons there. So I'm not understanding where the why it's not ascending more. I feel like they should be getting better. So what do you think is going on here?
You're right. This Chargers offense, and I was watching the Chargers of Vikings game. I was like, this is weird. What's the deal here? Is this just the coach trying to really force like a scheme in place? But even that doesn't make much sense because the Chargers at the start of the season was like, okay, like, wow, the offense is what we were expecting. Mike Williams was cooking.
Right.
And he clearly has it. And some of that, like it can't be a coincidence, right? We have to go back and really look at like when Mike Williams started to have his bad games, that's when this Chargers offense just went down the drain. And I sit there and I'm like, man, it's a home game. It's a perfect chance for the Chargers to figure their stuff out and get back on the right track. But last week was a home game against the Minnesota Vikings. Perfect game to get back on track, and they didn't. So both teams coming off the disappointing performances, they got to figure stuff out here. And, for Pittsburgh, their thing's easy to figure out. It's just are they going to get their starting quarterback? If they don't, then okay. Like they almost have the excuse for not winning.
Right.
For the Chargers, I can't figure it out. It's a home win against the Steelers would be great, and maybe it turns things around and they start a 3, 4, 5-game win streak. But
that's what they need to do.
They've been disappointing. Yeah,
right.
They've been incredibly disappointing.
100%. I completely agree. Well, hopefully we get a good game from them. It's Sunday night, so we better get back to some kick-ass primetime games. So let's go. Let's get Big Ben back. Let's get this, a good game between the Steelers and Chargers tonight, Cap Sunday. I'm ready for it. Let's go. All right, buddy. Well, I think our time has come to an end for the night. Let us get on our way. Do you have any final thoughts for Week 11 or for anything else for that matter?
Well, not Week 11, but if you are listening to the show or watching on YouTube, just make sure, give us a like, give us a thumbs up, comment, tell us what you like. This is a show for the people. We hope you enjoyed it, and make sure that you follow our show on Twitter. It's at DW_pod. And you can find me on Twitter at AaronStew09. And Ryan, where can they find you on Twitter?
At RMK Madness. Thank you very much, Aaron. Well said, by the way. And we're off. We're out of here. Thank you once again for joining. Hope you all enjoyed. Thank you. From the chatter, the captain, stay safe, vigilant, and we'll chat again soon. Until then, ta-ta for now. Let us